Hey, it's Bill from the Bill Simmons podcast. FIFA World Cup 26 fans, listen up. As the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26, Michelob Ultra is giving away $1 million worth of FIFA World Cup 26 tickets and prizes. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26. Michelob Ultra FIFA World Cup 26 superior access. No purchase necessary. Open U.S. residents 21 plus begins on December 1st, 2025. Ends on July 31st, 2026. Multiple entry periods. Visit www.MichelobUltra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26 for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
Are all batteries the same? That's like asking if all soccer players are the same. Take Messi, the most decorated player ever. Is there any other player who has achieved that? No, just him. Now take Duracell. Is there any other battery with power boost ingredients inside? No, just Duracell. Remember, goats only trust goats because they're built different. And Messi only trusts Duracell.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate. By automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
Hello, Eagles and draft fans. Welcome to the Big-Legged Waistbenders podcast. I am your host, Wannab, with the Eagles Film Room on Patreon with Johnny Page and Shane Haff. Please come check us out with a free trial to get access to all our videos and analysis. It's the best out there, or one of, I certainly like to think. We're going to begin our 90-man roster review, and we're going to start with tight ends. And there's a lot of bodies there, there's a lot of names, and it's not clear to me exactly how it's going to go. I think we all know the locks are Dallas Goedert, who's most likely our best tight end. His blocking suffered a little bit last year, and he is now in his age 31 season. But most likely he's our best tight end and a pretty good all-around tight end. We're lucky to have him. Also, Eli Stowers is obviously a lock. They drafted him in the second round. He flashed some nice receiving skills. They would not have used a second-round pick on a tight end if they don't expect him to be playing starter snaps and a significant role in the future. Now, this year, maybe not. I don't know how significant his role will be this year. He has some development to do as rookie tight ends. They do need to develop, but those are the two locks. I'm going to do a separate podcast about Eli Stowers. I'm also going to break down some of his plays at the Eagles Film Room for members only to view. So I'm not going to talk too much about Stowers now. But the fact that Stowers is a lock does point to what direction tight end 3 and 4 will be. You know, Stowers is not a blocker, not as of yet. He is a long ways off. It's not just your normal case of light blocking receiving tight end. It's a little, there's a ways to go. It's a special case. I did see some improvement blocking throughout the 2025 season for him. I just recently viewed some tapes towards the end of the season, and I was proud of some of his progress. And they did use him as a run blocker a little bit more later in the season. So I don't think it's hopeless. I don't think he's ever going to be a high-end upside run blocker as a tight end. But if the receiving is good enough, you don't necessarily need him to be high-end. You can justify the pick. But we'll talk more about Stowers in the future. But the reason why that tidbit about his blocking is important now is you better make sure tight end 3 can block their butt off. And that brings me to our next tight end, our near lock, Johnny Munt. I would say he's a 100% lock, if not for the fact that he turns 32 in November. So if he's the same player as last year or even close to it, he is a lock. It's just hard to predict given his age. He is a versatile blocker. I like the way he can block on the move as a puller behind the line of scrimmage, which is going to come into play with the power and counter series of runs that we might be adopting from the Green Bay Packers playbook. It's a nifty group of plays, and you have to have somebody that can pull kick out defensive ends, and also climb up to frontside linebackers in space. And he can do those things. He's quite good blocking out in space on the perimeter as well, which might help some with outside zone and wide zone, which we might also be adopting some of. And he's really good blocking even on the third level, climbing up to safeties and corners and nickels and really just eliminating them from the play. He's very good at landing square on his target and carrying the guy away out in space. So with the versatility he has, he's pretty solid in line. By in line, I mean lined up right next to the offensive tackle as a tight end. He's pretty solid there too. Down in the weight room against defensive ends and also linebackers in the box. He's solid there. I wouldn't say that's his best spot, but he's definitely good enough there. And either our first or second blocker in line coming into the season. My dog agrees if you can hear him in the background. Pardon me if I sound a little under the weather today, guys. I got a little July 4th cold. Happy July 4th to everybody out there. Hope you all had a great one. So Johnny Munt, lock or near lock, if Father Time doesn't take some of his game away. So that leads us to tight end 4. What are we going to do? And it's a logjam. It's a logjam in multiple ways. First, we'll just talk about the tight ends. You got undrafted free agent Daquan Wright, who shows a little bit of talent. He's got a little bit of downfield burst. His blocking was hit and miss a little, but I'd say that it shows promise. He definitely has some blocking upside. He has some run after the catch upside. He has a little bit of a nice downfield burst on deep routes, deep outbreaking routes, deep inbreaking routes. So you could use him like on a levels concept down the sidelines, or you can even use him up the seam and in the post on occasion with that nice little burst of speed once he gets going. And he has some promise. Now, he is undrafted free agent, and the blocking has some development to do. I liked him blocking in line better than I did on the move, although he did have some good enough blocks on the move from what I saw in college. I liked him a little bit better in line at that level, especially pass protecting. Run blocking, hit or miss, but I thought he showed potential there and can grow there. Now, how fast he grows is the question, and that's the first question. And if he balls out in preseason, the second question is, if you cut him, will you lose him? So you can do some phantom IR with a couple guys. Towards the end of training camp with the 53 cuts, you could designate a couple guys for IR and not subject them to waivers. Daquan Wright could be a candidate for that if they wanted to go that route. Usually they're more likely to go that route with guys they want to stash who are offensive or defensive linemen that just physically or technique-wise just are not ready to contribute, but they don't want to take a risk on losing them. You will usually see the phantom IR on one of those guys. It's certainly possible they could apply that to Daquan Wright if they like what they see. Then you have roster incumbents, Grant Calcaterra and Cameron Latu. I don't have to tell you about those guys. You guys have seen them a good bit. I do think that Grant Calc has a chance to make the roster. I know none of us want him to. Latu also has a chance to make the roster, but I doubt they're going to keep 5 tight ends. You could maybe say they'd keep 4 tight ends and a fullback and use Latu more as a fullback. And he may be the best blocker as a fullback on the roster, from what I can tell watching the tape of these guys. So the thing is, though, we have a logjam at quarterback. I don't know if they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks or not. If they see any promise with this rookie they drafted who can maybe become a solid backup in the future or more if they're really lucky, don't think they're going to take a chance on subjecting him to waivers if they see any promise whatsoever. A backup quarterback on a rookie wage scale for 4 years is a nice thing to have. So if he shows any promise, they're going to keep him. And that means they have 4 quarterbacks. So that's going to add to the roster logjam. Also, they're extremely deep at wide receiver at the moment. They have a lot of wide receiver 3 types clogging up the 90-man roster. I'd hate to see them cut certain guys. I really would. You're looking at probably at least 6 wide receivers being kept, especially if you factor Johnny Wilson in, and they might even be tempted to keep a 7th. Johnny Wilson, interestingly enough, I think he's going to be used as a wide receiver, but more as a blocking style wide receiver. You can take that F position in this scheme and make that guy sort of a tight end or sort of a wide receiver, and you can get into essentially 12 or 13 looks by having Johnny Wilson on the field, he is a pretty good blocker. He's probably a better blocking tight end than everyone not named Johnny Munt or Dallas Goedert. So that's partially a kudos to Johnny Wilson's blocking, and that's partially we don't have a whole lot of blocking with our depth. Cameron Latu, I mentioned, is a good blocker as a fullback, but that's more as a fullback. As an inline tight end or as a tight end on the move, he has some potential. Last year was his first extensive playing time, and he might improve, so I don't want to write him off. I currently think of him more as a fullback or kind of as an H-back. He did show some potential as an H-back pulling around the line of scrimmage as well. He probably doesn't land his blocks quite as consistently in space as a puller as Johnny Munt does, but he usually gets enough of the player, and sometimes he will even destroy a player on occasion, which is fun to see. So maybe Cameron Latu. Now, an interesting thing with Grant Calcaterra, he has 4 accrued seasons in the NFL, which means if you cut him, he is not subject to waivers, which means if nobody wants to put him on their practice squad or their 53, you could sign him to your practice squad without taking a risk that he's going to be claimed by another team. So Cameron Latu does not have 4 accrued seasons. As far as I know, I think he only has 1, maybe 2, but it's probably only 1 accrued season, which means if you cut him, he will probably be stolen by another team. And if not, he might make it to the practice squad, but I do think there's a chance he might get stolen. And I don't know if the Eagles want to take that chance. And that could factor into their decisions. Number 1, he can provide that fullback role. Number 2, he's more likely to be lost if they cut him. So those are reasons why you might want to keep Cameron Latu on the squad. Also, he's a young blocker who's developing and has shown some strength at the point of attack. So he may improve in other types of blocking as well. Up on the line of scrimmage, as a little bit off the line of scrimmage, as a tight end wing next to a tight end that's in line, fullback, puller, you name it. He has a chance to continue his growth as a blocker, and he's shown a nice baseline of blocking where he can definitely at least contribute. So I think it's probably going to be Cameron Latu as our 4th if they keep a 4th, but who knows? They might see Johnny Munt's blocking ability on the move and decide that he can give them their fullback snaps, and then they might decide enough guys might make it to the practice squad that can maybe block as a fullback, that they can take a chance on those guys making it to the practice squad, knowing that if not, if all else fails, Johnny Munt can play that fullback role. Now, obviously, they're not going to be lining up with a fullback on every snap, but that is in the playbook, and they will likely use a fullback this season. On to the practice squads. Practice squatter E.J. Jenkins. This is probably his 3rd or 4th season now with the Eagles. I watched his blocking from last year. Wasn't a ton of blocking reps during the regular season. If you take out the tush push and some kneel downs, it was probably only about 5 run blocks or so. He did show some promise, though. He was not useless as a run blocker. He showed a little bit of strength at the point of attack. He kept fighting and lost slowly if it was against bigger, stronger defensive ends that were particularly tough against the run. He did show a little burst of speed once he got going out in space and whacked some dudes in the run game in preseason and in those handful of reps. So he has grown as a blocker. I would consider him a dark horse, an unlikely dark horse to make the roster. He's probably going to make it to the practice squad, not get claimed. I don't think he has a ton of receiving upside, but I do think he showed something as a blocker that if he decided to truly dedicate himself to becoming a blocker, that maybe this offseason he's taken another leap and he should be our tight end 4. It's kind of impossible to predict with some of these guys unless I'm in the building as a coach or watching practice every day, which I'm not. But I'd have to say, I do think he has a chance. I think all these guys have a chance that I'm talking about to be tight end 4, depending on how they developed in this offseason and how they perform during training camp. Now, obviously, the most likely is Cameron Latu for the reasons that I've already stated, but there's other guys, and they're worth talking about. So E.J. Jenkins kind of, in some ways, almost looks like a better blocker up on the line of scrimmage to me than Latu at the moment. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. It's a pretty close call between the two. I would say Latu's the better fullback. So to me, he's got the edge. Low-cost vet free agents Carson Steele and tight end Stone Smart. Now, Carson Steele, I'm going to mention him just because people will bring him up. He's listed as a fullback. People call him a fullback. He has not yet in his career been a fullback. In college, he was really more of a downhill power halfback. in his one season in Kansas City. He got some playing time as a kickoff returner and as a halfback. He was a smash mouth, run between the tackles halfback for Kansas City, not a fullback. There was some talk the following year, which he did not play at all and spent the entire year on the practice squad at Kansas City. There was some talk that year two, I think it was, of in training camp of how he might have a path to the roster if he develops more as a fullback. But I don't know if either A, he did not develop as that blocker, or if B, they figured it wasn't worth it because their tight end, Noah Gray, could do the little bit of fullback stuff that they required. So I don't know exactly why he stayed on the practice squad all year, but any of these guys could potentially develop and decide, I need to eat some more protein, lift some more weights, focus on my blocking technique, eat an extra peanut butter and jelly sandwich here and there, and become more of that blocker. A lot of guys who are halfbacks who really need to become fullbacks sometimes do that. Receiving tight ends, like E.J. Jenkins kind of came into the league as. They sometimes will decide, okay, I gave the receiving tight end thing a shot. I'm too far down the depth chart year after year. It's time to make a change. It's time to really go after this blocking thing. No holds barred. And try and become that blocker so I'm relevant so I can make the roster. You will see receiving tight ends gradually get slower and stronger throughout the years and just naturally become more of a blocking tight end. And then you'll see other ones make a sudden jump in strength or a gradual jump in strength over a couple year period and become more of that blocker. So any one of these guys can make that decision and possibly get their name in the hat as a blocking tight end or as a blocking fullback. As of right now, I can only go on past tape. I don't need to talk to you guys about Grant Calcaterra's blocking. We know right now Cameron Latu is probably the best bet out of all these guys. Stone Smart, who I mentioned, he played for the Chargers 2 years ago and did get some decent playing time and a little bit of production. He played for the Jets last year, had less playing time and less production. He looked like the same player to me both years. And even though he's not a quote-unquote blocking tight end, to me, he's one of those receiving tight ends that can block enough that he's rosterable. He gave you a little burst as a receiver. We had sort of a receiving tight end last year. He got a little bigger, a little slower, but he still made our roster last year. What was that guy's name? Kylan Granson. I remembered his name. He was viewed as more of a receiving tight end, and he made the roster as such. He showed a little bit as a blocker. I would say that Stone Smart has shown a little bit more as a blocker than Kylan Granson, and he's more explosive athlete as a receiver. I feel like he's shown a little bit more in both areas. So to me, if we're talking dark horses to make the roster as a fourth tight end, he fits the bill. Now, he was not highly sought after. He was signed to a futures contract to come here to Philadelphia. So it's not like he's a guy who even tested free agency. He's like, okay, a team will take me on the 90-man roster. I'll sign that contract now, right after the season ends. Not even try to go to free agency and take a chance of not ending up on a roster. So for Stone Smart to make that decision, he's not super highly sought after. There's a possibility, especially considering he does not have to go through waivers as a guy who has at least 4 years of accrued play in the NFL. That means that you can maybe sneak him onto the practice squad. But the way I see it, if he makes your team better on Sundays.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at Accenture.com/Spotify.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Maybe he should make the 53. I don't know. It's a tough call. Latu definitely gives you more as a fullback, as a blocker. Latu is probably a little bit stronger as an inline blocker as well, although Smart did show me a little bit as an inline blocker and as a second level blocker and as a blocker in space. I liked him a little bit more as a second level blocker and blocker in space than I did, a Y attached inline blocker against defensive ends. But even against defensive ends, he fought. If you put him as part of a double team and climb, I could see him potentially doing that while offering more as a receiver than any of these guys we've mentioned in this Daquan Wright, Grant Calcaterra, Cameron Latu, EJ Jenkins, Carson Steele group. Stone Smart is a better receiver than all of these guys. Now, Calcaterra has the trust of the quarterback. He's a good safety valve option. If he and Jalen Hurts have to be on the same page against the blitz, they showed that in 2024 when they used Calcaterra that way on occasion. However, I would say that in terms of just offering a little bit more juice, Stone Smart has Grant Calcaterra beat. He can just do a little bit more. He can make a little bit more plays out there on the field as a threat, as a receiver, or as a guy who you get one-on-one versus a linebacker and decide to design a play where he's either the primary or secondary option. I can't think of too many plays where Grant Calcaterra is going to be designed as a primary or secondary receiver in the play. But you can, on some occasions, do that with Stone Smart. So he's a dark horse. It depends on how the quarterback, OC, and head coach sees things, and ultimately it's going to be Howie Roseman's decision. But I consider Stone Smart a legitimate dark horse. Even though as a blocker he's not super strong, he was good enough that I could see him as part of that rotation, especially if they don't need to keep a fullback on the 53 because Johnny Munt can handle that responsibility. So I don't personally know if Johnny Munt can handle that responsibility because I watched roughly 100 snaps of him run blocking and did not see him lined up at fullback one gosh darn time. He was pretty good as a puller. He doesn't seem to hit people with the same density that Cameron Latu does, even though they have the same measurements. So I don't consider him as powerful as a fullback as Latu, but he might be able to do it well enough, which then means if you're going to keep a fourth tight end on the roster instead of 6 or 7 wide receivers or instead of 4 quarterbacks, if you're going to keep that tight end 4, maybe you want to go with a Stone Smart instead of a Cameron Latu. It's one of those difficult decisions that Howie gets to make. I'd love to have a chance to analyze it and, along with Howie and the coaches and watch training camp, but unfortunately, I don't have that access. I just want to give you guys a taste of what all these guys can do. Carson Steele, as I mentioned, is more of a halfback, unless things have changed and we haven't seen it yet. To me, he's competing more in the running back room and kick returner room than he is as a fullback, unless he has developed as a blocker. Green Bay did have some 2 running back sets where both guys were technically running backs, but the one guy would be a little bit bigger and can offer a little bit more as a blocker. It's kind of a niche thing, though. It's not as valuable as a fullback or an H-back. So I'm not so sure that they would keep Carson Steele over a Latu or someone else who might emerge as a blocker when that's more of a sideshow type of deal. So if Carson Steele makes the team, it might be at the cost of another running back as opposed to a tight end. He might be running back 3, kick returner, who can also occasionally block from the backfield in like pony personnel with 2 running backs. So that's something to consider. But a lot of guys vying for what might be only one position, if that position's even available. So it's going to be extra interesting. And a lot of these guys can play. Even Grant Calcaterra, if he works on his blocking, gets it a little better, I could see him becoming a viable backup. I mean, he was a viable backup in 2024. It just so happened they didn't really need him for the blocking too much. Now we probably need our tight ends more for blocking than we did in that season, especially in this system. Tight ends, from what I'm learning this playbook, tight ends blocking is more important than it once was. And since Eli Stowers is not going to provide much in that department, that 4th tight end is going to be either a special teamer or a blocker, most likely, with I'd say Stone Smart as a dark horse. So thanks everybody for listening. If I had to call it right now, today, all things considered, I'd probably keep Cameron Latu. He has some special teams ability. He has that lead block and H-back ability. And if you lose him to waivers, that would be less than ideal. He's not necessarily a guarantee to make it to the practice squad. So thanks for listening and go Birds.